what's up and welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Liz. And today, for another Valentine's crimes video, we're going to be talking about Kimberly Hricko. So on Valentine's weekend of 1998, Stephen and Kimberly Hricko were supposed to have, a romantic getaway. And this was to an Eastern Shore golf resort that was in Maryland. But it was anything but romantic. You see, Stephen had hoped that this weekend was a way to help rekindle the couple's relationship, or whatever would be salvageable of their relationship. Also, a part of this weekend was a murder mystery event where the murder is staged, and you'd have to figure out who did it. But after this murder mystery thing had taken place, it's after this, under mysterious circumstances, Kim and Stephen's room would be found on fire, and there was human remains that would be found on the floor of the room. So this person would be determined to be Stephen, and Kim was basically in shock. So when police would talk to Kim, she said that Stephen was drunk, they had an argument, and she left. She then proceeded to say that she would visit a friend, and she got lost shortly after leaving, visiting with her friend, and she just kind of drove around for a while. And she also went on to say that after she came back to her room, this is when she noticed smoke. She then ran to the lobby frantically and called the fire department. By the time the fire department arrived, the fire was out and Stephen was found lying between the two beds in the room. And his pants were around his knees, and he was on his back. But there was also a Playboy magazine found near his motionless body. Yeah, didn't look so hot for Stephen. So, the other thing that Miss Kimberly thought is that he died due to smoke inhalation, which is plausible because, he's dead on the floor, there was a fire in the room, yada yada. But his autopsy said otherwise. You see, his autopsy concluded that Stephen had no traces of alcohol in his system at the time of his death, and there was no sign of carbon monoxide poisoning or carbon monoxide in his lungs at all. So he clearly died before said fire happened. So Kim would be the prime suspect for his murder from the get-go. And the suspicions of her would increase when a toxicology report would basically come out saying that Stephen had a lethal dose. I'm going to butcher the name of this drug, so don't come at me. That's not succinylcholine. Succinylcholine. I think that's how you say it. I'll have the writing down below with asterisks, so you guys can see what I'm trying to say. So he had a lethal dose of succinylcholine, and there was also traces of the antidepressants that he was prescribed to take and the cyclobenzaprine, which is a muscle relaxer, that was also prescribed to him. Succinylcholine is a powerful drug that basically it paralyzes your muscles, so you can't move. And it was also determined that he had died before the fire was set. So, what kind of alarm bells are ringing? In my mind, hello, what does Kim do? Well, Kim works at a hospital. She would have access to this drug because she worked at the local hospital as a surgical tech. What do surgical techs help with? Surgeries. What do they use in surgeries? Drugs that paralyze your muscles. And bing, 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 bing. Hello, alarm bells. Massive ones. So the state police would also work on other theories other than just Kim, killing her husband. They would end up ruling out these theories. Basically, one of them is that Stephen died via suicide, but this was ruled out. There's some information that would come out from some of Kim's coworkers. This is also after the theory of the wood stove in the room being faulty. I will say the wood stove was replaced after the fire, just in case. I think the resort wanted to cover their asses when it came to this shit, so smart move for them. But anywho, so after some information from Kim's coworkers come out, they basically said that Yes, she talked about killing Steven. Slam dunk. So, Kim spoke so freely when it came to this. She discussed basically that she wanted to inject her husband with a drug that she could so easily get from her work because, she was a surgical tech. She then would talk about setting the room on fire with either a candle or cigar. Now, according to the report, there was a pack of cigars found in the couple's room, but Kim and Steven didn't smoke, so that made no sense whatsoever. So while the suspicion surrounding Kim, with all of this suspicion surrounding her, the police arrest her on February 24th of 1998. So not long after Valentine's weekend. But they didn't just arrest her, point blank. They arrested her while she was at work. Made it even worse. And she would be charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and 1 count of arson. So, during her trial, there was more coworkers that spoke out about this. A coworker of hers admitted that Kim confided in this person that she was extremely unhappy in her marriage and she just wanted to get rid of Steven. She didn't want him in her life whatsoever. On another occurrence, she would admit, this person admitted that Kim had offered a coworker about $50,000 to kill her husband. And this request happened about 6 weeks prior to the actual murder of her husband, Steven. So there's accounts of her different tales and talking about killing her husband while she was at work, and also the talks about her love affair that she was having. And this was something she would openly boast about. I'm sorry, broad. I kind of talked about this in my previous video. Don't talk about what you're going to do because you're just going to get caught. You're just going to get caught point blank. You're telling people about your plan. You don't want to do that. If you want to try to get away with murder, zip the lip. Make sure your plan is airtight. Make sure your alibi is airtight. That way there's no suspicion. Don't boast about it. Don't brag about it. Don't be like, yo, I'm going to kill my husband because I'm so fucking unhappy. You don't do that. No. So, it's also speculated that Kim not only wanted the payout from her husband's life insurance policy, but so she could be with her lover. Now, the motive, obviously, with the life insurance policy was pointed out during her trial because she would stand to receive about $400,000 from Steven's life insurance policy if he had died. So, let me tell you what actually happened. So, on February 15th of 1998, Kim poisoned Steven with said lovely drug, succinylcholine, which, muscle paralyzer. Once that's in the bloodstream, it's nearly impossible to detect. So, hence why she used it. She would know this because she's a surgical tech. So, subsequently, Kim would set Steven on fire. She staged it to make it look like, hey, he's jerking it while looking at a Playboy, and then set himself on fire because he didn't put out a cigar. Ta-da! So this was a ploy so that Kim could be happy with her boyfriend and reap the benefits of her husband's life insurance policy. Well, she wasn't so lucky. You know why? Because on March 19th of 1999, she would be found guilty. Well, she was found guilty before this, but it's on this date that she received her sentences for 2 different counts. So this decision was determined after only a few hours. So she was found guilty on 1 count of arson, 1 count of murder. She was sentenced ultimately to 1 life sentence and 30 years for the arson conviction. But that's not all. These sentences have to be served concurrently. You know what that means? She is never getting out of jail. So, I want you also to know, just so you get kind of background, in Maryland, when somebody is charged with first-degree murder and found guilty, it's an automatic life sentence. There's no bullshitting a bullshitter. There is no weaseling your way out of getting lesser time. It is an automatic life sentence. I wish this rule was a rule in all of the states in the United States, because it would mean putting away people that murder others and making sure they go to jail for the rest of their life. Like, I was listening to Snapped, which is a show on Oxygen, but they have a podcast. So I was listening to one of an older episodes. I think it came out in 2021, but it keeps me busy while I'm at work. Anywho, so I was listening to one of the episodes, and this lady, she basically had her daughter-in-law killed because her daughter-in-law was going to take away her grandsons, and they didn't get along. So she conspired with her son to kill her daughter-in-law because A, she was going to run away with her boyfriend and her grandsons, and B, she didn't like her. So guess what she did? She made her son shoot his wife. He got like 25 years in prison. She, the first time, their sentences were overturned or whatever, and then they were retried. But the first time, she got like, because she was a mastermind, I think she got like 20 years. Once it was overturned, they went back to jail. Mind you, she's still sitting in jail. She's been sitting in jail for like, I don't know, 7 years. She then gets found guilty as, I think it was over a lesser charge. She only has to go to jail for 9 years. Guess what? Time served. She served time for 7 years in jail. She was released. The dumbest shit on the planet. If states were like Maryland, none of these people would walk free. Anywho, what are your thoughts? Leave them in the comments down below. I would love to know, and I will see you guys in my next video.